Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready?
Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Encounter. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we have a guest, Liz. She's the founder of an interior design firm focusing mainly on sorority houses and college campuses. She uses the business as a platform for mentoring college-age women interested in design, career, and entrepreneurship. Liz, welcome to the show. We're excited that you're here today. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you got started and what inspired you to work with the sorority houses?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm always take an opportunity to talk about things that I love. So my journey in a nutshell is I was always interested in design. I was in a sorority in college, so I have that Greek background. I didn't really know that designing sorority houses was a thing. Even though as a student, I lived in it. Somebody obviously had to be in charge, but I didn't know it was a real life path for a career. So fast forward many years post-college, I discovered that this was a niche market. I had a fraternity approach me, asked me to help with their house. And I was like, well, sure, why not? Let's see how that goes. And then a sorority came to me and asked me. And it was that experience that made me realize, okay, this has legs. Like they're asking me to travel to other states. They manage multiple properties. Let's see if we can get a good system in place and see what this does. And creatively, it was very fulfilling because like I said, I'm a sorority woman. So it was like, this is so great. Like I love being able to create these spaces that act as the backdrop for these collegiate women through their college years. And then I really geek out over things like leadership and just soft skills in general. And so what people don't always realize about the Greek experience is that a lot of what it does. It's instilling philanthropic principles in you. It's giving you leadership skills. There's a lot of skill sets that are taught through that experience. And so by serving that community, it really comes full circle for me. And I'm trying to foster relationships with college-age women and help them come up in their career. And then also our work is serving college-age women. So that in a very small nutshell is my experience and background.
That's really cool because like you were just mentioned, I didn't realize that was a thing either. From my understanding, because I went to college, they have sorority houses, but I didn't know that there was that many out there to make a business out of it to design those. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, how many college campuses across the country? There's 26 Pan-Hellenic organizations. And so you think, even if not all 26 are on every campus, but there's some kind of facility, you start to think about that and that adds up to a lot of properties. So yeah, it's a very interesting underworld because it's not well known.
I love that. Kudos to that because when there's something that is totally out of this world, people don't see that as a potential because there's many businesses out there and you wonder like, how did this even come about? But if you have that drive, then you make it happen. I think that's pretty cool. So you do also residential as well, or is it just sorority houses?
We do residential as well. We did more residential in the early days, and we're about to celebrate 15 years in business. And so that's very exciting, but that has tapered off now. The Greek work requires availability to travel, to go look at these properties, to do, site check-ins, to do the installations. And so the availability locally is not quite as much, but we still have a really great crop of repeat residential customers that come back to us or they refer good friends. And so those types of projects we still take. And we just our clients are very sweet. They will wait on us if we're in the middle of, a big install season or something. And then we start their project when we're home and available.
Well, that's nice of them to have understanding clients, especially if you're good at what you do, they'll wait. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool. How do you incorporate mentoring into your business model? Because from my understanding, so now that you have the sororities, you're helping design their houses and stuff, but you also have a mentoring program installed into your business.
So really, since day one, I have always taken on a student intern in the early days of the business. I just recognized that when I was in school, I probably didn't do as many internships as I should have. I had a very good understanding of where I wanted to land career-wise, but I didn't dabble as much as I think students should, because it's really hard to understand going from being a student to going to be a professional, what that career is going to look like. And so the more experience and the more you can try it out, the better it is. So what I try to do is we usually take at least one intern per year. And I really like to bring in sophomores or juniors if possible, because I think waiting until your senior year is a disservice to yourself as a student, because you're cramming it in to get the hours for the class. And then, heaven forbid, you think, okay, I want to go into interior design, and you get to that senior year, and then all of a sudden you're working in a firm and you're like, oh, I don't like this at all. Like, this is not what I thought it was. I've just spent almost 4 years to get this degree. What the heck am I going to do now? So if you start taking internships earlier, even if they're unpaid, even if they're not for class credit, you're getting some experience under your belt, and you're really able to see how different firms work. There's some that focus on commercial, hospitality, residential. There's us doing Greek. So there's so many different places you could go with it. And that doesn't even begin to touch if you want to be a sales rep or something like that. So anyway, all of that to say, what I try to do is just give these students an opportunity to come in and shadow us and just be in the space with us, hear the day-to-day of what it's like running a business. They're working right alongside me, the owner. So they hear about all the different facets of running the business. They're getting to start using their skills that they're learning to design. They're getting to interact with clients a little bit when they accompany me to appointments, and just start to open their eyes to what this world is. I think there's a lot of value there. And like I said, that was sort of driven because I felt like I didn't do enough of that myself. And I think it's always beneficial. So another reason that I like pulling in younger students is because if this goes well, if the internship goes well, then there's an opportunity for paid work with us. So they can continue to work with us, whether it's in sort of like a design assistant role or just doing some other things within the office. And what that does for their resume is that shows that they've been with a company for a longer period of time, and they were able to move through positions and move up.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in that, being a college student, graduating and saying, hey, I worked at this place for 2.5 years, started as an intern, went to a design assistant, went to this. And, it shows my progression within that company. And then we also give them some portfolio building opportunities. So if they are assisting with designs and they're in the technical drawing programs, then at the end of their internship, they can come to me and say, I would love to include the drawings that I did for these projects. Would you allow me to do that? And then we approve, or we go through that. So it's sort of 3-pronged there for them, but that's how we're able to add value to the student while they're also adding value and helping us accomplish some tasks.
I love that. I like that you allow them to come in and see every aspect of that. Mm-hmm. From personal experience, I did an internship that was not what I was expecting. I was really not doing much of anything. I was just kind of there, it seemed like. But eventually I did get hired on. But the time that I was interning, I was getting no experience. So I like that you give that experience to them so that they see this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. I feel like internships, kind of the old school way of doing it, was run and fetch coffee, take the boss's dry cleaning, walk the dog kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, sometimes my student workers end up helping me in a personal capacity as well, but that's a totally different situation, different pay, all of that.
Right.
Because my office is in my home and always has been. I like the low overhead. We travel so much. I don't want to have to go to a different location. So I'm bringing these students really into my home. And so when you say that they're getting to see everything, it's not a joke, right? They're in my space. It's a dedicated office space, but there's some nuances to it. Anyway, I usually start the interviews by telling them this internship is not you running my personal errands. The point is that you get some experience.
Right.
We get some assistance professionally, and that's where it is. It's within PDR. It's not within Liz's life.
That's awesome. Hey listeners, Sarah here. I'm on a mission to humanize the workplace for your growing business. The way that your business runs internally affects the business as a whole, such as team retention and satisfaction of your customers. There's a really big number that is kind of scary. There's 30,000 people plus a year of people that leave the workforce because of the way that the business is run internally. So I want to change that. I want to ensure that your business is set up for success. So what does this look like? We'll evaluate your business and team satisfaction as a whole. We'll dive deep into the systems and the programs that you have set up for professional development for your team. And then after that, you can get ongoing support for your business and your team. And this looks like the admin side, project management, soft skills training, workplace coaching to set your team up for success so that there's not a high turnover. And again, the goal here is to elevate the success of your business. The easiest way that you can contact me is to send me a DM on Facebook or send me an email at sarah@urrembertllc.com. So I saw on your website that you have soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because before we got on the call, I was saying a lot of people don't understand what soft skills are. So if somebody comes to you and asks you what are soft skills, how would you explain to your interns? Like you're learning like the hard skills of the business, but in order for you to land a job, run a business, you need these soft skills.
The easiest way to explain it for me is just the intangible skills that make you stand out in the workplace. And really, frankly, as a human, sometimes they're just things that we're no longer teaching very heavily within the college experience. We are great at teaching everyone to do their craft. You want to be a doctor? Great. Here's all the things about how you be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not teaching you how to run your practice. They're not teaching you anything about running the business side. The designers that come to work with me, they know all the technical things, but they don't know how to go out and market themselves to get clients. And so those are the things that I try to instill in the students. And I am obsessed with this book called Great on the Job.
Okay.
And I have multiple copies of them. And anytime that someone starts with me as an intern, I hand them that book and I say, read this. It's very easy to read. It gives a lot of conversation examples and like how to handle certain scenarios in the workplace. And if the students read it, it gives them an invaluable leg up of how to manage things within the work environment.
That's perfect. I love that because it's funny when I talk to people about soft skills, I'm like, I know you have them, but do you understand them? So, when we talk about communication is a soft skill. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In order for you to run a business or have a job or anywhere in the workplace, you have to communicate. And that's just one. That's the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Like your active listening skills. When you're working with your interns or your interns are working with their clients, are they truly like listening to what the clients need? Again, there's a long list of soft skills, but I believe that the foundation of any relationship, whether it's the workplace or your personal life, and it all intertwines.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they do. They all spill over. So I ended up teaching a soft skills class at the University of Kentucky back in 2020. And it came about because I went back to my program, which was merchandising, apparel, and textiles at the university. And I said, hey, I love getting the students to come and work with me, but there is a definite gap in what they know when they come to the workplace. And instead of just griping and being like, oh, this generation just doesn't know anything, how might I be able to help them and help you prepare them for the workplace? And they said, do you want to teach a class? And I was like, sure, let's give it a go, right?
Yeah.
So I taught a class, and every week we did a different unit. And so it was things like communication. We had one specifically about having difficult conversations in the workplace because everyone wants to shy away from conflict, or they're maybe too aggressive. So we had a lot of role playing and addressing that. We talked about professional attire and how that is very subjective because every job is not wear a business suit every day.
Yeah.
But it's what in these different professions makes it professional attire. How do you determine this? I am a stickler for sending handwritten thank you notes. I think you need to express gratitude in everything you do, but nobody does that anymore. So if you write a handwritten thank you note, I think it really does something for you. It makes the day of the person you're sending it to. And so we had all these guest speakers come through, and part of the grade for the students was they had to write a handwritten thank you note to every speaker. And then I would collect them and mail them to our speakers. And I got so many comments from the speakers about, oh my gosh, I'm blown away. Like, this was so nice, or what they said was so great. I could tell they were listening, and it created a really big impact. And I hope started a habit for those students. But those are just some samplings of the things that we talked about. And then COVID hit, and I really started to see the way that that was affecting the students and being on Zoom and working remotely from school. And so I just felt like I was positioned to be in the right place to help them at that time. And it was very interesting to watch.
That's really cool that you were able to teach that class. Because again, like, where do you find that unless you bring it up and say, hey, like, this is what's going on. Let me teach this class, because it's truly beneficial. And when it comes to the thank you cards, I saw my client in person last month, and she lives in a different state than I do. And I bought her a card, and I wrote in the card, I love giving cards to people. So she about cried. She's like, what is this? I'm like, it's a card for you because I appreciate you. So I wanted to say thank you in some way. Yeah. So I gave her a card, just saying thank you for being in my life, because she has taught me so much within the last couple of years. Even though she's my client, I wanted to give her thanks in some way. And that was how I expressed it. That's a lost art for sure.
Yes, it is. And I mean, look at how much it made her day. We're in such a digital age that everything is a text message, it's an email, it's a DM. And while those are also okay ways to express gratitude or communicate with someone, that tactile, open the card, you took time to buy the card, to write the card, and to mail it to them, that means a lot, because this wasn't just a one-off in passing. You really thought about that person and then sent that note. And it does more than anybody realizes. So to everyone listening, buy some stationery and always send the note.
Yes. That could be the challenge for the rest of the year, forever now. Everybody just send a card to somebody.
Mm-hmm. And I am somebody who keeps those cards. I have a little board on my desk that even if it's an email, if a client sends something nice, or a vendor or a friend, I tuck it right there. And then when I'm having a bad day, I read those and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. Yeah. I am loved. I do good work. It's kind of a little pick me up.
That's awesome. I love it. So do you get your interns involved in community aspect? I don't want to say community service, but getting involved and doing projects within the community, giving back?
Not necessarily. You're testing my memory here. We've had some things where we may decorate a Christmas tree, for example, and donate it to an event that's raising money for a local nonprofit. So in that regard, yes, they've been a part of that. In terms of just general volunteer work, not necessarily. Mm-hmm. We may buy a table or sponsor something at a charity event and then they attend, but not necessarily get in there and get their hands dirty.
Yeah.
Am I answering your question?
Yeah, that answered the question. I was just trying to see and you answered it, decorating the Christmas tree, because that is giving back to the community if you're helping a nonprofit. Because during the holidays, a lot of nonprofits, they're trying to help other families. So if you can decorate a tree, to me, that's giving back.
Yeah. I hope that indirectly they're learning that skill and that importance from me, just hearing something I may be involved in or something we as a company may have donated to, or like I said, if we attend an event, I hope I'm modeling the way for them in that, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah. From what I've heard, it seems like you're doing awesome things for the people that are coming into your internships, or you're helping these college students. You're paving their future, essentially. You know what I mean? Because they're getting the experience, they're learning the soft skills, they're getting the experience from you. And then maybe 10, 15 years down the road, they're going to look back and say, hey, Liz helped me do this.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope that's the impact. And I have been very fortunate that I think every intern I've had, I can't think of any that I don't. We're still connected on social media, or occasionally I'll get a text message or a phone call, or they'll say, will you be a reference for me? And the answer is always yes. I'm so happy to support those women.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs that are hesitant to take the leap? You have your interns that come in. Are they wanting to start their own business? Are they looking for a career? Have they asked you about starting a business? Like, how do you give advice to those that want to start doing that?
As far as my interns go, it's been a mixed bag. Some of them aspire to have their own business at some point, but they know well enough to know they need to get some industry experience first. They can't just walk out of college and start a company. They don't know what they don't know yet. And then others just want to kind of dabble in different sectors and work their way up from there. They maybe don't want to be a business owner. So that's been mixed. And that's always interesting too, just to kind of talk them through and watch them develop what they like there or what they think they want to do long term. As far as my advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, I think what I usually say is just do it, right? Just start.
Exactly.
Gather the information that you need and must have so that you're making an educated decision on how you're going to go forward. Like, don't just blow money or quit a job and go out there with no plan, but also don't over plan either, right? Like, as much as I'm a planner, I'm a little fly by the seat of my pants in my business, and I go with my gut and I follow my feelings and just what I think my intuition is telling me to do in business. And it hasn't steered me wrong. It's scary as all get out to take that leap. But, again, 15 years later, here we are. And I think just keeping the focus on following your dream or like what your why is behind the business and not being focused on the dollars, that is going to behoove you more than anything else. The money will come if you show your passion and you treat people well and you do good work. But if you're focused on the dollar from the beginning, I don't know. It's probably going to fall flat.
Yeah. Dana and I always talk about like relationships over revenue because when you start a business, you have to create relationships in order to grow your business. I remember when I started my business, I thought it's virtual, so I don't need to go out and meet people. I truly believe that I did not have to go out into the real world and meet people. I was so wrong. But after figuring out like, you got to go meet people in real life.
You really do.
You do. And at first it helps with your mental health as well, because you're getting out of the house. You're not just at home all the time. And then you build those relationships and you never know who you meet. The 6 degrees of separation, they might know somebody and, trickle down. So yeah, you definitely have to get out there.
Yeah. Networking was a huge foundation for me building my business. And that was also something else that we addressed in the soft skills class, because like you said, most people think I'm going to sit here behind my computer. I don't need to meet people, connect with them on LinkedIn, whatever. But there is so much value in getting out and meeting other people because you're building a resource list, you're building contacts and support, and then potential clients too. But it usually ends up being more of the other. Like maybe they refer people to you, or maybe you have a client that needs a service of someone that you met, then you can connect them.
Yeah.
That's what I did early on, is I did so much networking, probably more than I did design work, right? I was out meeting people in the community, just letting people know I was here and what I did, and building connections. And those connections, most of them are still in place today. And I really value that. And so I will advise a lot of my students, if you don't have a LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn profile. And every time you meet someone, connect with them on there, because then when you're job searching, they may know something for you, or there's so much value there. And in that like 18 to 22 age range, there's a lot of those students that aren't taking advantage of being on LinkedIn or the professional networking. And so that's another way to really stand out.
I'm still learning how to use LinkedIn. It's become better. When I was in college, I was never even told about LinkedIn. They don't teach you that stuff. And although they have a career center, but they're just mainly there to say, these are the jobs that are hiring. So that was my experience in college. Like if I could go back, I think I would try to network more when I was in college, because again, I wasn't told any of that stuff. So
well, it's intimidating. You're a student, so you're like, I don't want to go talk to these adults. Like you still kind of have a mindset of like, I'm a kid, I'm a student. And it's like, well, I don't know what to say to them. I don't know. Like people get it, right? Like they don't expect you to come out of the gate and be like super professional when you're a junior at college. But just the fact that you're willing to step out of your comfort zone and make the connection and introduce yourself, it just goes such a long way.
Yeah.
Like you said, down the road, it really ends up helping. You never know who you're meeting.
Exactly. So what are some of your future goals for your business in terms of like business growth and your continued mentorship?
I always want to continue to bring in students, whether it's shadowing or having a coffee appointment and just giving them some pointers and letting them intern. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. And then in terms of just other goals within the business, I'm really interested in exploring opportunities within product lines. I'm kind of wanting to dabble in like the new construction real estate world. So I'm exploring some of those things right now too, just to see what gets me creatively sparked and excited. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I sit right now. I've been spending the last year, or maybe not quite year, just reflecting on how far we've come as a company, how far I've come personally and professionally, and just kind of sitting with that for a little while to decide what does going forward look like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, again, you're doing awesome. To me, you're pretty on point with what you're doing. So
You're very kind. Thank you.
just keep at it. Because to me, your business is more than just a business, because you are truly helping other people, not just learning the craft of interior design, but you're setting them up for their future success. Because a lot of people don't have those opportunities, but you are giving people those opportunities.
Yeah.
Which I give you a big high five for.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That is my goal. That's what I would like to do, is give people those opportunities. Then they can use it as a jumping off point.
Awesome. Well, for our listeners out there, Liz, where can they find you and connect with you?
Our website is pdr-interiors.com. And then you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok under PDR Interiors. And then I, Liz Toombs, am on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz. This was an amazing conversation. I had a lot of fun with you.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great to chat.
Yeah, for sure. As always, the information is going to be in the show notes, all of Liz's information as well. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.